right, ready to dive deep into the Odyssey.
Always ready for an epic journey.
We've got excerpts straight from the poem itself.
Oh, nice.
And get this, Samuel Butler's preface to his translation from over a century ago.
Wow. 2 perspectives for the price of 1.
Exactly. It's like we're having a conversation across time. Homer, the original poet, and then Butler, this scholar, analyzing it decades later.
I like it. Speaking of Homer, he kicks things off by calling on the muse, right? To tell Ulysses' story. Pretty typical for epic poetry back then, but...
What's the deeper meaning?
Right, like why was that so important in ancient Greece? Well, imagine this. These epic poems weren't just for kicks. They were how they passed down their knowledge, values, their whole culture.
Like they're history books, but in verse.
Exactly. So when Homer calls on the muse, he's not just being poetic, he's acknowledging that these stories, they were divinely inspired.
Deep stuff. It's like their understanding of the world, the gods, it was all woven into these narratives. And Butler, he adds this whole other layer.
Oh yeah, what's he say?
He's got this theory that the Odyssey might have been written from a single location.
Like by one person?
Yeah, like one author shaping the whole thing.
That's interesting, because back then people thought it was like a collection of poems from all over.
Exactly. But Butler's like, nope, I think it was one guy. Okay, enough about the background. Let's talk Ulysses. 20 years at sea.
Fighting monsters, gods angry at him.
The whole shebang. So what are some of those iconic encounters that, like, really hit on the human experience?
Okay, picture this. Ulysses is stuck in a cave with Polyphemus, the Cyclops. Talk about a monster.
Yeah, no kidding.
But Ulysses, he doesn't freak out. He uses his brain, blinds the Cyclops with a burning stake, then they escape by clinging to the bellies of sheep.
It's that image clinging to a ram that's just stuck with people, right? It's primal, that fight for survival.
Totally. But then there's the sirens. Beautiful creatures, but their songs lured sailors to their deaths. That's temptation right there.
Oh, big time. So how does Ulysses handle that?
Well, he knows how dangerous they are. So he makes his men plug their ears with wax, can't hear a thing, and himself, tied to the mast of the ship.
Wow, resisting temptation the hard way.
Right. He knows his weakness, and he's not taking any chances.
Makes you think about our own sirens today, you know? Those distractions that can totally throw us off course. But while Ulysses is out there, Penelope is back in Ithaca, facing her own battles.
Yeah, she's amazing.
So strong, so smart.
Totally. She's got all these suitors trying to marry her and take over the kingdom. But she comes up with this plan, the weaving trick. She pretends to be weaving a burial shroud for her father-in-law, says she'll pick a suitor once it's done. But get this.
She never finishes it.
She unravels it every night. Years she keeps them at bay.
Talk about using your wits. And Butler even mentions how she was considered, like, exceptionally clever for a woman of legend.
Right. She was playing the game on her own terms.
Then there's that dream she has, the one about the slain geese.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
What do you think that's all about?
It's like a symbol, right?
Yeah.
Foreshadowing the violence that's going to hit Ithaca.
Like she has this intuitive sense of what's coming. Okay, so 20 years pass, and Ulysses finally comes home. But it's not all sunshine and roses.
Nope. He shows up in disguise. Even his own son doesn't recognize him.
And Penelope is not about to just jump into his arms. Why all the hesitation?
Well, think about it. 20 years, she's been surrounded by liars and schemers.
So she's got to be sure.
Exactly. Plus, in ancient Greece, proving your identity was a big deal, especially after being gone so long. It wasn't just about looking the part. It was about proving who you were deep down.
Their conversation when he first gets back is so loaded, right?
It's totally. You can feel the joy, but also the caution, maybe even a little resentment after all that time.
And even the townspeople. Butler says they have no clue what really happened. Some even think Penelope got remarried.
Wow. Adds a whole other layer of intrigue, doesn't it?
For sure.
Mm.
But before we jump into the climax, let's give Butler some props. His insights throughout this have been amazing.
He's not just translating, he's analyzing, making us think about the poem in a whole new way.
Totally agree. But the story's not over yet. The suitors are about to get what's coming to them.
Back for more of the Odyssey.
Ready to see what other trouble Ulysses gets into?
Well, before the big showdown, we see another side of him. Like on Calypso's island, he's got this goddess offering him basically paradise.
Immortality, no less. Sounds pretty tempting.
Right. But he's still heartbroken over leaving home. He actually chooses to go back to all that drama.
He could have just stayed there living the good life. But duty calls.
I think it's more than just duty. It's that deep longing for home, for his wife and son. He shows real loyalty.
It's a tough call, though, giving up immortality.
No kidding. Though he does get a little help from above, right? Minerva, the goddess, is kind of his guardian angel throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, Minerva, goddess of wisdom, warfare, she's a powerful ally to have.
For sure. She seems to see something in Ulysses, helps him reach his full potential, but she doesn't make it easy for him.
Oh, I know. She's always testing him, pushing him to be better. And she loves a good disguise, like when she makes Ulysses look like a beggar when he gets back to Ithaca.
Oh yeah, why does she do that?
Well, think about it. He gets to check out the situation, see who's loyal, all without anyone knowing it's him.
Pretty smart. Keeps him under the radar while he plans his revenge.
It's a great plot device, too. We know it's him, but the other characters are clueless.
Creates so much suspense. And speaking of suspense, let's talk about that final showdown with the suitors. Brutal.
It's a bloodbath. Years of anger and resentment just boiling over.
Ulysses, his son, a few loyal servants, they take down all those guys who've been taking advantage of everyone.
It's violent, no question.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was kind of inevitable, you know?
You mean the suitors had it coming?
Yeah, they totally overstepped, disrespected his home, his family. It was like a restoration of order.
Right. It's about justice. Setting things right. It gets at those core themes that run through the whole poem. Good versus evil, loyalty, betrayal. But it does make you think about the nature of violence. Like, how far is too far?
Tough questions. But after all that chaos, we get that final reunion between Ulysses and Penelope. We talked about how it wasn't easy at first.
A lot of baggage to unpack after 20 years.
So how do they finally bridge that gap?
I think it shows the strength of their love, their loyalty. They've been through so much, but they choose to start over. Forgive, rebuild. It's a message of hope.
It's a powerful ending, for sure. But like you said before, it's not all happily ever after. Ulysses still has to deal with the aftermath.
Right. Reveal himself to everyone, deal with the fallout from the fight, reestablish his authority. It's not over yet.
It's like that saying, getting there is half the journey.
Exactly. Coming home is just the beginning of another chapter.
And I get the feeling Ulysses, even after all that, still craves adventure. Like he's not meant to stay put.
Yeah, that restlessness, that curiosity, it's a part of who he is.
It makes the ending feel both complete and open-ended. Like there's a sense of peace, but also this feeling that he's still searching.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from the Odyssey. Life is about constant growth.
We're always on a journey, in one way or another.
Always seeking, learning, discovering new things about ourselves and the world. Welcome back. Ready to wrap up our Odyssey adventure.
Definitely. We've covered so much ground, but what about its lasting impact? Like, why are we still talking about this poem thousands of years later?
Because it gets at the core of what it means to be human. It's not just about the adventure. It's about those universal experiences we all share. The challenges, the choices, wanting to belong, trying to figure out our place in the world.
Yeah, it's like deeply relatable, even after all this time.
Exactly. And something that really struck me was the importance of storytelling itself.
Oh yeah, from the very beginning. Homer calling on the muse.
Right. It shows how central storytelling was to ancient Greek culture.
More than just entertainment.
Way more. It was how they taught, how they preserved their history and values.
Their version of history books, but way more engaging.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that act of telling a story, it was almost sacred.
A way to connect with the divine.
Exactly. And pass down wisdom through generation.
Which makes you think about the stories we tell today. How they shape our views, our understanding of things.
Absolutely. The Odyssey reminds us of just how powerful stories can be.
They can transport us, teach us, connect us. And I think it's interesting how the Odyssey focuses on those smaller stories too, not just Ulysses' epic journey.
Oh, you mean like his encounter with Eumaeus, the swineherd?
Yeah. He seems like a minor character, but he's so loyal, so kind to Ulysses without even knowing who he is.
He shows that even in the toughest times, there's still goodness to be found. Humanity shines through.
It's heartwarming. Makes you want to be more like Eumaeus.
Right, and that's what I love about the Odyssey. It shows us that every encounter matters. Every interaction has the potential to change us, teach us something.
It's like a reminder to be present. Pay attention to the stories unfolding around us, big or small. And we can't forget the language itself.
Ah, yes. Homer's poetry, the imagery, the similes, the rhythm.
It's beautiful, even in translation.
It really brings the story to life even after all these years. Which, speaking of translation, that must have been a tough job for Butler.
Yeah, bringing this ancient text to modern readers.
More than just getting the words right, he had to capture the spirit, the heart of the story.
So, as we finish up our deep dive into the Odyssey, I'm left feeling inspired. It's a story that continues to speak to us, even centuries later.
It teaches us about resilience, loyalty, the importance of home, the strength of the human spirit.
It reminds us that life is a journey, full of ups and downs, but ultimately it's about finding our way back to ourselves.
And that's something we can all relate to no matter what time period we're in. The Odyssey, it's a gift.
A timeless tale that keeps on giving.